So with tools like GIMP, I've had GIMP developers on the show before, and I think GIMP 3 was a major improvement. Just like to the basic workflow of the tool, honestly. Just being, being able to select multiple layers at once was it's such a simple thing, but not having it there was so annoying. And now that it's there, I don't know how I ever used the tool without it.
I was doing some food photography in GIMP the other day, and we had like 140 photos or something like that of all these different food items. And I could have taken them into Darktable and done it there, but I'm just more comfortable with the color tools in GIMP. And with non-destructive editing, I was able to rip through those things. I did all of my color grading and stuff like that on a layer group, or a group layer. And I was able to just throw in the next photo into that group layer, and it was just automatically applying those color grades. It saved me so much time.
Yep. What do you feel what would you like to see in GIMP that is not necessarily there right now? Like maybe a workflow improvement, or maybe a feature that's entirely missing. Obviously, you're comfortable with it. That's why you're kind of using it. But is there anything you are kind of hoping to see?
Yeah, there's a good bit. I definitely want to toss this question to Jack actually too,
Okay.
because he's used GIMP a little bit, but he goes to Krita.
I also want to hear about
Um,
Critter as well. What you might think needs to be added to that.
yeah, the thing that's interesting is like when I worked in television, for instance, everybody was on Adobe at the start, and then when I took over the department, we turned it into DaVinci Resolve. But that meant we had Photoshop, and I tried using Photoshop a little bit, but I liked GIMP, so I stuck with it, and it was free, and I was able to install it on the computer, so I did. And pretty much everything I did was in GIMP. So it's kind of hard to say that like this feature of Photoshop is something I want,
Sure.
or some other tool or whatever. But I think the biggest thing is kind of just plugins. There is definitely one I could tell you. That would be AI driven object selection. If we had AI driven object selection, that would be incredible.
That would be
But
nice.
we use a tool called Remove BG. Jack actually introduced me to it, and there's a officially endorsed plugin that they have that allows you to integrate it directly into GIMP, and you can actually do AI background removal with a single button inside of GIMP, and it is a fantastic tool. It is premium; you got to pay for it. They do have a free version for lower resolutions, but it is a fantastic tool. But it would be really nice if something like that was more baked into GIMP. But the plugins thing I think is huge. And luckily with GIMP 3.0, they've changed the way they are implementing plugins. So hopefully we'll see a lot more happen here before too long. What
Yeah,
about you,
so
Jack?
GIMP 3,
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, GIMP 3, they've working on a new plugin framework, and like they'd want to like actually make it, because before they had plugins, but it's like you got to put the files in specific weird locations and know about that. They're working on like an actual plugin format where you just download the plugin file, it just does everything it needs to do, and then you're good. I will have a look at that Remove BG plugin, because I spend so much time cutting out backgrounds, like my thumbnails, right? Like I I do those by hand. I don't use because the selection that GIMP has is not great unless you have like a plain, if you have a plain white background, it's great. I don't have that wall back there. That's not big enough to take the pictures. It's a little bit too small.
Yeah, no. Yeah, and they have a great desktop tool, which is an app image, by the way. They are able to target one format. There we go. But they have an app image desktop application where you can throw in a whole batch of images. I've done 150 at a time, and it just goes through and removes the background of everything in there, and
Okay.
it is life changing.
Okay, I will definitely have a look at this
You
then.
can even have it just swap your background too. It doesn't have to just remove it to transparency. It'll even swap the background for you.
Okay. So Jack, tell me about GIMP. Tell me about Critter.
Okay, so I come from a background of using Photoshop
Okay.
somewhat professionally, and so when I started I swapped to get try use. Let me rephrase. I tried using GIMP first, and I think the biggest problem I had was coming from that Photoshop mindset to GIMP. They're very similar in how they look, how they operate, but ever so different that it just confuses me.
Right.
And I just I couldn't get out of the Photoshop mindset to use it. But Krita, while similar, was different enough to I was like, okay, this workflow makes it's I have to relearn it. I don't have to relearn it, I have to learn it.
Right.
So that means I can start from scratch and kind of figure it out a little more. And I don't know, it always seems to just look a lot nicer to me. GIMP has always seemed a bit I guess brutalist, if you could say, an architecture style and how the program looks. I know it's gotten a lot better, but Krita has always just been something that has been easier to learn. It works very well, and I like a lot of its tools, although, like Micah was saying, it'd be nice if it had some more AI-driven tools. One thing I know that Photoshop has, and I think Krita might have, I haven't experimented with it a lot, is they had the old eraser tool where you just click once and it just removes everything, and that was before AI. And
Krita does have that, actually. I'll show you.
Well, okay, that's something I haven't figured out. But again, that also shows how much I use Krita. I don't use it a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think though that it's definitely it's because of my Photoshop background that kind of screws me up in a lot of ways.
Yeah, when I recommend new users to a tool, if they've used Photoshop before, I definitely recommend Krita over GIMP, just for those reasons. But GIMP 3.0 definitely shortens that gap when it comes to feature parity in a way, largely because of non-destructive editing and things like that. But there's also a project that I know of called is it PhotoGimp?
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yes.
And it basically will make the UI look and act, and changes the keyboard shortcuts and stuff to be more Photoshop in nature. I've never tried it, but that's definitely something I really want to give a go. And honestly, maybe we try that with you, Jack, and see, since you are a Photoshop guy, see how it kind of makes it act.
It might trip you up more because it looks, again, it's that thing of it'll look similar, but things won't exactly be correct.
Yeah.
I might see it. I think I heard it when PewDiePie swapped to Linux. That was one of the tools he was using to get basically GIMP to operate like Photoshop. And so I don't know. I might give it a shot. I have to see. That should be an interesting test.
If you don't want to use all of it, you can pick and choose what you want. So if you just want to have the hotkeys, you just want to have the UI layout, you can just take those individual files. Okay. But yeah, the PhotoGimp is really, really cool. I am glad that it does exist, because it does sort of, it really depends on who you are and your approach, right? Some people find it more annoying to use because of the similarities, similar to things like Linux Mint, or even in many cases Zorin, where it looks close enough, but things are not exactly right, where it I think if you go into it with the right mindset, knowing this is not Photoshop, I think... you'll have a better experience. If you go into it directly as a Photoshop user without an experience with GIMP, it's gonna seem wrong.
Oh yeah, it's definitely daunting, and I think that's the mindset of rather than learning it, if it's I could just do it in Photoshop and be done with it. That's kind of what inhibits from fully being okay, committing and going full send and learning it.